Hi all. So Zoom and I seem to be having a disagreement about what should get recorded and what shouldn't. And so last Friday's Para Coffee Hour did not get recorded. So I'm going to record this just for y'all so that those who were not able to make the call can at least get the information that we shared in the presentation. And then if you have questions and you want to join us for this Thursday evening session at 8 p.m., feel free to do that. And we're happy to answer all the questions you might have. So with that, let's talk about our kids and how to make their lives easier and our lives easier when it comes to all this acting business. So for those of you who haven't had a chance to join us before, we always include this graphic, and it's meant to represent kind of the feeling that we had when we first started, or certainly the feeling that I had when I first started with our daughter, where you're on a very fast moving highway in a very fast moving car. There's things flying at you on all sides and you don't know what to pay attention to. And you just wish you could sort of pause and stop all the madness to figure it out. And that hopefully looks a little bit more like this. And so by the end of this session, hopefully you will feel a little bit more like this because things are clearer and you have better understanding, etc. And so this is our agenda for today. We're going to talk about all the great resources that Corey has created for all of us as parents, and then how to optimize your child's Actors Access profile. And you can apply a lot of these same principles to their Casting Networks profile, their Backstage profile if you have a Backstage account, etc. They're very similar, but we're going to focus purely on Actors Access today. And normally we have open Q&A when we have live people, but today that won't happen. And then I'll talk about next time, what are we going to cover in our next few sessions. So before I do that, who the heck is this lady in front of you? So my name's Christina Brunell, and I don't even know how long I've been a member of Child Actor 101, but I'm super thankful that Corey built it so that we could all be there. And I started this journey with our daughter about 5 years ago, where she was acting in plays at school, and then that transitioned to acting in community theater, and then to regional theater and equity theater. And then we made the jump to television and film. She got an agent, she got a manager, and now she's got, 8 films under her belt. She's filmed some commercials, and she's got a TV episode that just aired earlier this year. And when I started, I felt dumb, like really dumb, and I'm not dumb, but I certainly felt dumb because I didn't know how this industry worked. I didn't know what to do, what not to do, how to support her, all the things. And I'm very thankful that I found Child Actor 101, but I didn't find it right away. And I really wish I had. I wish there had been a place where I could have asked all the questions I had. And we've heard from you all that you would like more time for connection with other parents and hearing other parents' stories. So that's why we created these parent coffee hours. So there you go. All right. So with that, all the resources. So this isn't even a complete list of all the things that Corey has so graciously built for everybody in the Child Actor 101 community. It's just a taste. But just to let you know. So not only is there Child Actor 101, the Facebook group, but there's also a .com actual website where you can find all the information. So if you're ever lost and looking for information, try there first, okay? childactor101.com. And then within childactor101.com, you've got Prep 101, Reader 101, a guide for bold choices, a guide for headshots, and you can actually also access that on the Facebook page. A resume builder for those of you who, if your child is in theater, and you want to build a resume for them to use for auditions, as well as a resume that you want to share with potential agents or managers. There's a directory to find new, or maybe new to you, acting coaches, headshot photographers, classes, etc. And there's also Child Actor 101 classes that Corey offers periodically throughout the year. He has a whole series. And Corey posted about all these on May 5th of this year. By the end of the session, I'll show you exactly how to get to this post. But it gives you all of these resources, right? The link to his master page, his blog. He publishes a newsletter. So if you're on his mailing list, you'll get newsletters from him that give you all kinds of valuable information. The directory where, back up. The directory where you can both look for a resource as well as add your own resource. If you have a class that you recommend or a coach that you recommend, by all means, put that in there. You can also review places that you've tried. And in terms of training programs and classes, so Corey offers a whole breadth of classes for students. They're usually multiple weeks long, which some people are like, oh, why do we have to take classes for weeks and weeks? I always liken it to if your child played an instrument and they were going to have a recital, you wouldn't have them practice once and then perform in that recital. You'd have them practicing every day, at least once a week leading up to that recital. And acting is no different. So you can't just all of a sudden turn from not having a lot of practice to being on set and being on camera, doing a self-tape that's perfect. You need practice. And some of that practice comes from going to classes on a very regular basis. So I encourage you to try out some of Corey's classes because he's always running them and they're great. Our daughter has taken many of them and she's enjoyed them all. Then in terms of overall coaching and services, if you need coaching, Corey can give you coaching for your child. He can also give you feedback on your self-tape. And it keeps going. If you want basically a script analysis of the sides that you're being given to audition, or your child is to audition, his Prep 101 guide can help you break down the scene. And then he has a reader guide for those parents who may not be actors or may be uncomfortable being a reader. He also has something called his Bold Choices Guide, which I'm sure many of you have heard the term, oh, make bold choices. Yeah, but what does that mean? So Corey helps you understand what that means and what that could possibly look like. Oops, my mouse is funny today. And then he has a guide for how to set up your self-tapes, how to memorize, what happens or what you need to know in terms of a Zoom callback, as well as headshots. And all of that is basically to make your life easier. And out of the goodness of his heart, he has created all those things, and we are so thankful. All right, so how to optimize your child's actor's access profile. So if you don't have one already, you will want an actor's access profile for your child. And let's talk about some of the basics about that. So, what is actor's access? That is where essentially the jobs are. So similar to the way you would go to a job board if you were looking for a job, you would go to Actors Access if you were looking for a job for your child as an actor. And that's what agents and casting directors use to communicate with each other when there's an opportunity for a movie or a TV show or a commercial, et cetera, et cetera. Now, parents can use it. Well, you'll need to use it if your child is getting audition requests from an agent or a manager. And if you don't have an agent or a manager yet, you can also use it to do what's called self-submit. So sometimes, not all the time, sometimes what are called breakdowns, which are descriptions of a role, and it's an interesting factoid about that. So I can't remember the name of the guy right now. I want to say Mike Walsh. I could be wrong. I'd have to go remember. But anyway, where did that term breakdown come from? Well, back in the day, like way back in the day, when a production house had a script that was going to turn into a movie, they would never release that out of the studio. They wouldn't let it travel anywhere. And so agents had to physically go to like Universal, Paramount, all the places, and read the script. And then they had to make a description of the different characters that they were going to then go out and cast. And, like about how old they were and what types they were and, what kind of attitude they had, et cetera, et cetera. They were these little summaries that you needed to know about about the role so that the actor could try and play the role. And they literally sent people in person to physically take these notes once they had read the script. And this guy, again, I think his name is Mike Walsh, his mother ran an agency, or casting director, was a casting director, and she would send him because she was busy. So she's like, hey, can you go read the script and write the description? And his descriptions were so good that she decided to have that be a permanent part of his job. So he constantly did that. And then other agents started noticing how well he did and how great his descriptions were. And somebody once asked him, they said, so what do you call that, what you're doing there? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like breaking down what you need to know to play that role. And so that's where the term breakdown got coined from. So breakdowns, the description of the character, come from production. They get sent to the casting directors. This is in today's day and age. And the casting director sends them out to different agents, and the agents then try to see if they can find somebody to fit that role. But the thing is, casting directors don't send those breakdowns out to the public. They don't send all of them out to the public. So if you have an agent, you have access to more of those breakdowns. If you don't have an agent, then sometimes if they can't find what they need by sending it to all the agents that they usually work with, sometimes they'll release them to the public, and that's when you'll see them on Actors Access. And so sometimes when people ask me, well, what's the benefit of finding an agent? That's one of the benefits. They get more access to more breakdowns. So what is included in Actors Access? So the basic free level that you don't need to pay anything at all to be on it includes your ability to read any of the breakdowns that are released to the public, not the ones that are released just to agents, but to the public. You get 2 free photos, and then if you want to add more, they're going to cost you $10 each. You get 1 free slate shot, which I'll explain what that is in just a little bit. And then any more, you have to pay $5 each. You can put your child's resume, their size card, I'll explain what that is, and any special skills they have. You'll get notifications, so you can set up a little bot that if a role comes through that is similar to your child or your child could fulfill, you'll get an email that says, hey, there's a role that your child might be fit for. You should go apply. And then you get this shared profile that can be used by anybody who's representing your child and can be seen by casting directors and directors who are looking for children in the database. And then you get access to all these things, your self-tapes, any live invitations to audition, sides, which are scripts. We'll talk about more about all these terms in a little bit, and anything else that you need to know about the audition. And you can also purchase additional photos, slate shots, media, etc. Whoops, back up, which I will talk about in a little bit. And then if you have an iPhone, you also get access to the app. If you have an Android, I'm sorry, they haven't built the app for us yet. I own an Android, and I wish I had it in an app. And if you want to pay for the annual membership, it's $68. I don't work for them. I don't get a commission from them. I'm just letting you know. But you can see once you start uploading more photos or more slate shots, or if you're self-submitting, it costs you to self-submit. It actually costs $22 per minute of video that you self-submit or portion of. So if you have a video that's 1 minute and 5 seconds or more, up to 2 minutes, you're going to pay $44 for that video to submit it. And the same goes for voiceover. So if you submit up to 1 minute, it's $11. And they actually give you a 4-second grace period. So if you submit up to 1 minute and 4 seconds, it's still $11, but you pass over into 5 seconds, and now you're into $22. And the same goes for regular videos. So you can see if you're self-submitting, pretty quickly, it racks up in terms of charges, and therefore it might behoove you to just pay the $68, and then you don't have to worry about paying for all those things every time you upload. Now, you still will have to pay for additional headshots and additional slate shots, but you won't have to pay to self-submit. When you submit for something that's been requested that you submit for, then you don't have to pay for the video or the voiceovers in that case. So you got to weigh the pros and cons. How often are you going to self-submit? That's up to you. All right. So, but what are all those other things? What's a slate shot? What's a size card? Breakdown, blah, blah, blah. Well, we talked about what a breakdown is. Sides are the actual script. And actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me just go into here. So, slate shot. And I'm going to show you these things in our daughter's profile in just a little bit. So, slate shot For those of you who may not know, a slate is when your child, either at the beginning or the end of an audition, depending on where they're located or how it's been requested, sometimes it's separate, where your child records hi, or actually they shouldn't say hi. They should say anything but hi, because everybody says hi. So say something different besides hi. Say hey, or hola, or whatever. Howdy, all the things. They start their slate, howdy, my name is, and I'm this many years old, and I'm this tall, and I'm based out of this location. And then they might add a fun fact about themselves. That's a regular slate. These slate shots are different. These slate shots are attached to the photo that's in your child's Actors Access profile. And they're literally 7 seconds, and it's better if you aim for 6 to make sure they fit. And it's basically maybe 1 or 2 sentences that indicate their personality in some way and go with the photo and the mood of the photo. And so I'll show you a couple that our daughter did in just a little bit. Then, size card. So it's really important that casting understand how large or small your child is for a number of reasons, but not the least of which is if they are being cast as the younger sibling, but they're taller than the elder sibling, that's not going to work. So you really want to make sure that your size card is up to date and got all the accurate measurements that they might need. It helps them a lot because then they don't need to chase you down and spend a lot of time emailing back and forth. And if there's one thing that there's not a lot of in this industry, it's time. And so any time that you can save people, it really makes them appreciate you more. So breakdown, we talked about that. That's how everything is cast, by sending out a breakdown, sending that out to agents. They find people that fit the breakdown, and then they submit. All right. And sides. So that's the script that your child is actually going to use. And when you see people say, hey, download the sides, or where are the sides, that's what they're talking about, is the actual script. Then a C-mail. What's a C-mail? A C-mail is when you get an email through Actors Access to your regular Gmail or Hotmail or whatever you use, to your inbox. And it's a communication between you and the casting team in some way, shape, or form. Now, many times I've seen people talk about how they missed a C-mail and therefore they missed an opportunity. So make sure that you go and put the term C-mail into your approved recipients, contacts, what have you, because you don't want to miss those emails. They're so precious and they're so exciting when you get them. So you want to make sure they're on your safe list, if you will. And it'll make if you have an agent or a manager, it'll make them really happy too that you're not missing those emails. So callback. What's a callback? A callback is you submitted for something and now they've called you back. And they want to see more. And they might ask you to do that, your child to do that scene again in a different way. They might ask them to do it in the same way first and then in a different way. They might just be asking to talk to them and ask them questions and see what they're like as a regular person. It's a whole host of different things that can happen during a callback. Corey has a whole guide on callbacks. But it's basically really, really exciting if you get a callback, because if you think about it, from the perspective of just pure numbers, thousands of kids will get submitted for a role. And then out of those thousands, the casting director will likely pick maybe a couple hundred, sometimes more, sometimes less. And then out of that, only a handful, maybe 2 handfuls, are going to get sent up to actual production teams. And so if you get a call back from a casting director, that means that they're interested in potentially sending you up to the production team and to be considered for the actual role. So a lot of parents are like, oh, we got a call back, but we didn't get anything after that. And it's like, oh, you got a call back out of all those thousands of kids. That's amazing. You should celebrate that to the heavens, because it's very rare. All right, what else? So an EcoCast self-tape, okay? So if you get an EcoCast, it's basically what has happened is that breakdown got released, your agent got it, they submitted your profile to the casting director. The casting director said, yes, actually, we do want to see that child. And so now they send the sides, and you're being requested to self-tape or to tape those sides and submit them. And that allows them to take a look and see, how fabulously talented is your child. It also is really important when you're submitting tapes that you label them exactly as asked. So, for example, like when I say exactly, I mean exactly. So, for instance, if they say last name underscore first name underscore role underscore take one, and take one is indicated by TK1, don't forget the underscores. And if they say last name and last and name are all in capitals, then make sure your last name is all in capitals. Because part of this is just showing that you can really follow directions, because they want to work with people who can follow directions. And that's one of the little tests that sometimes casting directors will use. How well can they label these files? Because if they can't label files, then what else can't they do when they're going to drive us crazy, right? So don't drive people crazy. Follow directions and label exactly as they ask. Now, some casting directors won't ask you to label things in any particular way. So you can just use that what's the word? Method, manner, standard operating procedure, whatever. Use that way. Last name, first name, role, take one, take two if you do more than one take. All right. And then same for it would be last name, first name, slate, if that's what they're asking for. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's first name underscore last name, or just first name space last name, and then slate or take one or whatever it is. But whatever they put in the directions, follow them. You'll be happy you did. All right. Then there's EcoCast Live. So some casting directors will ask you to do what's called an EcoCast Live, which is basically a callback, and they want to see you, hear you, / your child, and get a sense of how well you can take direction and what you're like as a person, etc. Some of them, it will be a Zoom callback. They'll send you a Zoom link and they'll say, yeah, just log into this Zoom at this time. But sometimes it's through the actual portal in Actors Access. And if it's that, then you will be told one way or the other which one it is. All right. And Talent Link. So for those of you who don't have representation yet and you're seeking representation for your child, there's a few ways to go about that. One is to submit directly to different agencies, and you would submit your materials. You would follow exactly to the letter the directions that each agency has on their website. And then you sit and you wait. That's one method. Another method is Talent Link. So in Actors Access, there's a place you can go where you can upload your child's profile to it, fill out a few questions. I can't remember. It's been a long, long time since we looked at it. And then if any agents or managers are looking for representation to fill out their roster, or looking for actors to fill out their roster, then they might approach you and send you an email and say, yes, we'd like to talk to you, etc. Now, some agents and managers do that, and some don't use it at all. So it's kind of, there's no guarantee by any means. And then the last way is what Corey does every year, which is usually end of summer or fall. It's an open casting call where he asks you to upload your child's headshots and the resume and any actors' clips they might have, demo reels, etc., basically videos of them performing. And he aggregates all of that into a database. He collects all of it into one spot, and then he invites his industry peers to go and review that. And a lot of our Child Actor 101 parents / children have achieved representation that way. So, and if you're going to do that, make sure that your headshots are beautiful and taken by a professional headshot photographer, not a portrait photographer, not just you and some lighting, unless you're a photographer. Make sure your resume is up to date and accurate, and you can look at Corey's tool for learning how to write a resume properly. And you want to make sure that any self-tapes you submit are well lit, your child can be heard, and they're doing their absolute best. Like, don't put forth crappy work. And you should not be recording, in your den with laundry in the background and dogs running through and the doorbell ringing, etc. It should be high quality, the same as you would submit for an actual EcoCast that you received with a breakdown, etc. So those are the three ways to get representation. And then what does a complete Actors Access profile include, therefore, given all the information that we just shared? So your headshots for your child should be accurate and up to date. Okay, they should look like your child. Now, if you have a very small child, like, infant, toddler type, you're probably going to get asked for recent snapshots. So, like, take a picture right now of what they look like, because kids change so fast when they're young like that. As they get older, you don't need to get headshots, every month or take a photo every month. Depending on how much they've changed in the past 6 months to 12 months, once a year is usually sufficient once they've stopped changing all the time. And in some cases, you might have to do 6 months, for instance, if they got a drastic haircut or they got braces taken on or off, or, all that baby fat disappeared all of a sudden. It seems like, wait, where'd they go? Those would be reasons to get new headshots, because you want the child that appears on set to look like who they thought they hired in the photo. Although in between, they'd probably more than likely see you on a callback first. Anyway, so they should be up to date and look like your kid. And then slate shots, that's that 7-second video. And I'm going to show you some examples in a little bit. They should have demo reels and or clips. And a lot of parents are like, well, how do I get a demo reel of sample work that my child has done if I can't get work and I need a demo reel to get work? So there's a lot of ways to get demo material. One is to have them take a class, like with Corey or with Amber at Actors Site, and or any place that they're taking a class. You always want to see, like, do they provide footage that you can potentially use for their Actors Access profile and any of their other profiles? So that's one way, is through classes. Another is if you have some scripts at home, as long as they are works that have been published. Don't do this with anything that hasn't been published already or hasn't aired. As long as it's been published, that's perfectly fair game to make a tape at home with. And another is to do student films or free projects or local projects, and then you ask for a copy of the footage so that you can clip it out and include it as part of a demo reel. And then there are clips, so a demo reel is like a minute to 2 minutes. You really don't want to go much further than that because they're a child. A minute is great. If you can just include what they've been in a minute, that's perfect. But then you also might want to do some clips. So if they have a series of times when they've been comedic, you could create a set of comedic clips. You could create a set of drama clips. And those are just similar genres put together, or just once, right? You can have one little funny scene, and that's just a comedic clip of them. But you don't have to go and create a whole beautifully stitched together demo reel. So either one will help the casting team determine, how good are they on camera, which is basically what those are for. And remember, they cost money to upload to Actors Access. If either way, whether you have a paid account or not, they cost money. But they don't cost anything to upload if you're not self-submitting and you've been requested by a casting agent or a project to submit. So what does that mean? So if they say, and this was something actually that caught me up early on, this was one of those moments I felt really, really stupid. So at the top of breakdowns, very often they will say, please include any demo clips available or something like that. And I thought that if I had put our daughter's demo clips in her Actors Access profile, that they could see all those. And therefore, I didn't need to attach them to the actual audition request. And I was wrong. So wrong. So I think about, like, how many jobs did I cost her because I didn't bother uploading the demo reel that she had? Like, doofus. So don't make that mistake. And so let me be super clear. What does that mean? Okay, I get an audition request. It comes with sides. This is for our daughter, not for me. It comes with sides. They ask her to self-tape, and they ask for those demo tapes or clips. So we tape the tape, we upload it into the audition request, and then I go into my files, and I also grab her demo reel or a clip, if that's what they're asking for, and I upload those as well, even though they are also attached to and included with my Actors Access profile for her. They still have to get uploaded just specifically for that audition. So don't be like I was and make that dumb mistake and not do that. Do that. Okay? All right. Then what else makes your Actors Access, your child's Actors Access profile complete is listing their roles in order of importance. So you want to put leads before, if they're doing theater, leads before supporting, before ensemble. You want to, if they were the lead in a show, they were the star versus a co-star or a supporting, or there's another term I'm thinking about, a day player, but you wouldn't put it like that. I'll have to come back to that. Amber would know the answer to that. Corey would know the answer to that. And then additional skills or notes. And so there's a place where you can tick off all their little check boxes to offer all the skills that your child might have, and don't lie about their skills. Okay. If they can't reliably repeat a skill on camera, on set, then don't list that skill, because that could get you in a lot of trouble. We had a child on something that our daughter was shooting that actually got let go partially because they had been asked if the child could ride a bike, and they could, but they couldn't ride it without training wheels. And that was a miscommunication of sorts, but they actually let that child go because there was a pivotal bike scene in the movie, and they needed the child to be able to ride a bike on their own without training wheels. So don't exaggerate skills that you have. And definitely don't lie and hope that you can accumulate those skills, or your child can accumulate those skills before the actual taping date, because that's not going to end well. And then last but not least, they need an updated size card. And so there's a place to go to put all of their clothing measurements, their shoe measurements, their hat size, glove size, all those type of things. And that just makes wardrobe's job that much easier. All right. So let's take a look. I'm going to come out of here, and I'm going to share with you our daughter's profile. 1 second. Come on. There we go. Yes. All right. So here we are, and you can see this is our daughter, Ebby, and she has slate shots for almost every photo except for this one, because it's very similar to this one, so we just didn't bother. But here's just her initial slate shot. Oh, you know what? I just realized I don't think I shared the sound, so hold on a second. Let's make sure we're sharing sound. Share sound. There we go. Okay. So now here's her slate shot.
Hello, new friends. My name's Evelyn Brunel, and I love to sing.
Right? And you can tell that was 7.5 seconds because I had to cut off her last note. So it's really about the 7 seconds. So that's one that matches the mood and vibe of that headshot, versus this one is a very different mood. So we have a different mood for the slate shot.
Hey everyone, I'm Evelyn Brunel. How many of these have you watched today? Because if it's over 50, you should probably take a break.
All right. And then here's another one.
Hey everyone, Evelyn Brunel here to personally wish you an amazing day.
Okay. So that gives you an idea of what kinds of things you can put in a slate shot. And I would actually, one thing you'll notice is she's doing her slate shot on a different background, right? Because the day that we took her headshots, we ran out of time, but you can actually ask your photographer if they can record her shot while they're taking her pictures. Now, not all headshot photographers can or will do that, but for the ones who can, it's great, because then the lighting is perfect, the outfit is exactly the same. You've got any props, like this hat belonged to the photographer. So later on, when we went to do her slate shot, we can't recreate that, right? So if you can, shoot them with your headshot photographer. That's ideal. Then you're going to list your representation or your child's representation, any movies they've done, and again, you want lead, the highest level of star, co-star, etc., at the top, and then you could split these into two. I just didn't because it looks silly to me, but you would list television and then you'd list commercials. Some people actually list commercials available on request, and that's intentional so that, for example, if you had done a Nike commercial, but Adidas wants you to do a commercial, you don't want them to see that you've done a Nike commercial, because that Nike commercial could have been 4 years ago and it's not airing anymore, but they might go, they were a Nike kid, so yeah, we don't want them to be an Adidas kid. We don't like that. So you can leave them as commercials available on request. And then theater, same idea. You put their lead roles first, and then their supporting or ensemble towards the end. You're not listing dates on any of these. You see how there's no dates? You don't list dates. It's not like a regular resume. They don't care when you did it, as much as what did you do and what was the role. And then if you have any voiceover experience, you're going to include that as well. And then any acting training, along with where they took it and who taught it to them. And if they have musical theater training, don't mix that with their on-camera training. Keep those separate. And then additional skills. So this is just to make it easier for folks to read. So if you scroll down, you get this great big huge block of special skills that come when you tick off all those boxes. But it's kind of a big text block and it's hard to read. So if you want to pull any of those out because they're particularly impressive or relevant, then you can add this additional skills section and add them to that. And then you want to put a general overall description of them. And you want to make sure that the first few words are particularly relevant, because when a casting director is looking at your child, their headshot is showing up super small, and then there's a number of sort of icons underneath your child's picture that tell the viewer whether they have a resume, do they have video footage, and these words, there will be a few words that will show up, and when they hover over the words, then they'll see more words. So don't waste your first few words on, Sarah is a good student, because how does that matter on set? It doesn't. So you want to put things that matter on set. And then this will populate, the physical characteristics and measurements will populate out of their size card. And then you're done. So one of the parents, when we did this last Friday, one of the parents asked, how many headshots should we have? Well, the short answer is not too many and not too few. So 2, probably not enough. You want to have, ideally, at least 4, where there are 4 different types that your child can play. And you're going to want to have a commercial headshot, which is a big smiley headshot like this one, and a more dramatic theatrical headshot like that one. So at the very base level, you need at least those 2. And then after that, you can do something that's a little bit more character-y, or that's a little bit period, right? Or another character-y. Basically, you want to make it easy for a casting director to see your child in that role. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing this and go back to our slides. Here we go. Yep, you can see that now. Let's move this out of the way. All right. With that, I'm going back to all those resources that Corey posted for you. They are, if you go to the top of Child Actor 101, they're in the featured section. It was his post, and it was on May 5th of this year, and it looks like this. And he gives you a whole, infographic to tell you about the system that he's created to help you out, and therefore help your child out. Oops, Alexa, stop. So go ahead and find that, and that will help you a lot. And then when are our next coffee hours? We are going to be meeting again this Thursday the 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Central, as well as next Thursday, July 2nd, because I figured on Friday, July 3rd, people are probably checked out. So we'll meet at lunchtime Eastern next Thursday as well. And with that, thanks for watching. And sorry it took so long to get you this video. But if you have any questions, go ahead. Feel free to ping me in Facebook. I'm happy to answer them. And I hope you have a great day. Take care.